Welcome to the Pure Signal podcast, where we bring you the latest and greatest in AI, machine learning, technology, and more to send you, yes, you, and your business to infinity and beyond. My name is Ryan Medellin. I am a manager in our marketing solutions practice, and I am joined, as always, by my wonderful, lovely, spry co-hosts, our North American CEO, Kevin Erickson, and our Global Chief Innovation Officer, Jake Carter. First off, Jake, it's been a minute. It's good to see you. Looking good, looking well-rested.
Yeah. I don't know about well-rested. We're getting there.
Well, it is good. I mean, I don't know where to go off of that. Like, I still think that at some point when Disney has a few extra moments, they're going to eventually sue us for your opening line. But
that's when we know we've made it.
Yeah, that's when we know we've made it. But whichever.
There's a model running in the background somewhere.
Something like that. You know, we can't solve the ESPN YouTube problem. We can't solve a lot of things. We can't solve theme park attendance. We surely can't solve the fact that the NFL had a interesting day yesterday, impacting at least part of their business. But we can stop Pure Signal from using headlines from different statements, even if, so.
I was just going to riff on the fact that his topics change every time.
Yeah, it's good to see you. We missed you some last week or 2 weeks ago, but happy to have you here and excited to have this. This is going to be a fun recording, end of the year for us. And it's been a year.
It's been a year.
Literally, yeah, it's almost been a year. I mean, by the time this will be released, there will be 2 or 3 weeks left in the year. And some people are ramping down. I can't speak for myself, but yeah, it's one of those where, we took this time. We just spent time at AWS reInvent. We had the episode with Phil recently, Phil Lockhart, talking about the experience and just welcoming him on as an expert on the pod, which was fantastic, and really wanted to take this moment here as everybody starts to kind of go off and start celebrating the holidays with their families of, we've done what we're thankful for in 2025. And we've talked about, a little bit about the year that was and how crazy it was and how fast everything moved. But this is just a time for us before we start the new year and hit the ground running, of which we will, to, we had a lot of thoughts going into the year of what it would look like. We had a lot of opinions on what we feel like should or shouldn't happen. And now we get to replay the tape, if you will, and just kind of go through our thoughts and feelings about how we felt like 2025 went. And then at some point we'll transition to looking ahead to 2026 with, of course, some exciting news for the podcast. That's a tease right there for this Pure Signal podcast, because we will be hitting the road again. So stay tuned for that. But Kevin, we'll kick it off with you. Yeah. Had a lot of thoughts, especially, I mean, I can only imagine how many thoughts go through your head in a day, but when you look back in January 1st of 2025, all of this opportunity and New Year's resolutions, et cetera, just take us through that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for all those thoughts, I guess the title of the rebranded podcast, Pure Signal, which one of those thoughts do you actually care about? Like, what is the signal to noise ratio of thoughts in my head? I'd say it's not what I'd like it to be. But I think, first of all, I know that you teed up, we already had thankful, but I just start there. I mean, I'm just really grateful for both of you for jumping in. I mean, obviously, if you just think simply from a podcast perspective, where we started the year with our previous hosts and had a chance to do that, to have them do that, have it be much more technical focused, have that move towards this Pure Signal, which I think is a little more broader, and at least from me as the strat guy that I was always described as, it's been more fun to kind of think about larger concepts and thinking about that, still bringing in the technology components of that, but a little bit slightly different lens. And so really appreciate Jake, you and Ryan both kind of jumping in here at the half of the year and really continue to have a chance for us to kind of share. And and it's just been, so when I look at the podcast, we'll just start there. It's been a continued really fun year of just good conversations, enjoyable. I love thinking about this stuff, loving a chance to interact and dialogue. It's been fun to have reach outs from different people, past different stories that, listening and thinking about that, clients that are saying that some of the stuff that we banter about, which sometimes I don't know even what we're saying and if it has any impact, did. And so I'm just really encouraged by that and just the growth of that is unexpected. And I'm looking forward to more of that, chance for us to kind of have a chance to think about what we do and how that can really kind of influences what we do as an organization, and maybe some of the organizations and individuals that listen to what we have to say. If I look more back into my job, obviously, we've talked in the podcast before, a shift here for me into the CEO role in North America, a new position for us in the firm, lots of interesting questions going into the year. And so leaving the year, really excited about where we're at, the growth of our business, which really coincides with a lot of the cool things that have been going on in the marketplace within Omnicom. We definitely benefited from that. So really, a long year, tired year, but actually a year where I'd say in general, just leaving with a different sense of optimism. Going into this year, I had hope and optimism that was both the marketplace, looking at what's going on there, I think looking at the state of AI, and just, really after 2+ years of a lot of what I'd say AI hype and clients, getting more, but really not quite knowing what to do with it. I mean, kind of still shifting. I think as we remember a year ago, we were, I think, starting to see at the start of the year a lot more personal velocity type constructs. You'd kind of moved from POCs to ideation into that. But both of our clients and really us as a firm, I've just seen tremendous growth in terms of how it's influencing what we do on a day-to-day basis. I think it's causing us both from a client perspective and from an internal perspective to rethink how we do business, rethink about how we get things done. And, so I'm just really, I leave this year excited about where we're as a business. Obviously we've talked about a little bit before, but Omnicom just completed a large merger, and that definitely impacts our business in really cool ways. I'm excited about the maturity of how the business environment is talking about AI related themes. Obviously there's some concern as we end the year about what may be a bubble and does it look like 2002 and all that stuff. And, I think there's obviously some, we need to be aware of that. But I think generally speaking, that feels a little bit like noise, whether it happens or not. I don't think it will slow up what we do or what we see with our clients. And then when it comes to just simply business, as someone who comes from a strategy management consulting perspective, primarily work with companies to scale rapidly through technology. It's just a really fun time to be alive and a fun time to be in a craft and fun time to be able to be thinking about stuff. And I find that we're able to be innovative ways today that is just more, it's just bigger, it's broader. It's not just simply how do we roll out a new product or think about a certain tangential element. It's really around how do you think about your business in a different way? How do you think about your partner ecosystem in a different way? How do I think our clients are your clients, but they all are people. Like I feel like our people, we had a lot of themes that we talked about last year, early part of this year, just around, do our employees care? Are they engaged? What's it look like from a generational perspective? And I just think there's been some answers for that too. I feel like I think that there's, at least for us, we've got an embarrassment of young talent. And I think that for the most part, we're leaving the year with a committed team that are really curious and want to learn. And I obviously know that curious is a buzzword of mine. It's kind of like infinity and beyond, curious and bold, but it's like, so anyways, rambling on, but I guess generally speaking, tired, ready for a break, but actually very, very excited about 2026 based on what's all the hard work and kind of what happened in 25, but what's in your world, Jake?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things I could respond to there.
Do it. Respond to them all.
Respond to all of them?
He's the one or two people that can actually remember most of what I said.
Not today. Need more caffeine.
Are you not running something in the background that captured all that?
No, but you want to know something funny? That has been an aspiration of mine, just to set something up that while we're talking can just kind of be running in the background and feed me what I need to say.
There was only some tools that did that.
Right. Gee, only someone can do that. I would agree. You actually stole one of mine. So from our business standpoint, one of the things that surprised me this year was how quickly the conversation around AI in particular changed from, should we be doing this? How do we dabble to it? To this year, I feel like we had so many conversations around, how do I change my org? Like how does it, your term was, how does this change my whole business? But just think about the number of workshops and, CMO briefs, things that around like, hey, should I be creating new roles? Should I be deprecating old roles? That was really interesting to me. Obviously the pace of AI expansion, I think that was very much expected. The thing that jumped out to me that was unexpected, at least for me personally, was if you had asked me coming into the year, who are the leaders going to be in AI? I would have pointed straight to the expected candidates, the OpenAIs and the Anthropics. What I would not have pointed to would have been like DeepSeek, the R1 model out of China and this whole notion of like, hey, look, we can create a frontier model that's about as good for, depending on who you ask, 1/100th of the price. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we're going to do it using older hardware. I would not have picked that up. That was surprising.
Adding a couple more, I think maybe not surprises, but I think quicker, like just going back in start of the year, it was data models, working through that. That was a lot of the conversation. Where should it be? What do you do? And, I think if I build now, I think it's around, going specifically on the DeepSeek is like, it's around hyperscalers, it's around how they're continuing to bring that out. It's about power. It's about some of those elements, working through that. But I think that I didn't necessarily fully expected that the hyperscalers would, absorb most of this into their ecosystem. But I think that happened maybe faster than I anticipated. And then
I would agree with that.
And then going from the client story, like where, data models, what I do with it, to me, it seems like the narrative now is mostly processes. And I know that I'm biased towards that. So I got to check my own thinking, but I just feel like that goes back into, which is just different. I mean, there's still a need for the data. There's still understanding what you're going to use, what you're going to create, what's going to be, leveraged, built off of. But, I think that there's a better understanding that, that the data components of that will still be the core of what's your own competitive advantage. But I think it's a lot more of, differently around kind of, I feel like we've talked about processes more in the last 6 months than maybe I had in 10 years previously, in terms of being really a core element of how we solve business problems and opportunities.
Yeah. And I don't know why this is a riff on that, but it is. The other thing that I think if you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said, hey, yes, this is going to happen, but maybe it's happened faster than I would have guessed, is some of the backlash against AI. And I say backlash, I mean kind of, let's say, I don't know if fatigue is the right word, or there's this weird dynamic of, at the same time, you've got all this AI stuff is happening and it's hot and it's like you can't launch a product now without AI being part of it. On the other hand, you have this little movement around, no, now what I really care about is the authenticity around the human experience of, something is almost better or more premium because it's human, not AI led. Even if you riff on, I don't know if either of you saw last week, the McDonald's ad and the backlash on the ad. And then there's this whole conversation with the studio that created it around, well, no, AI didn't create this ad. We created this ad, and kind of all of that. So that was interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting just around what is craftsmanship and how does that play into that, and goes back to the human experience. So I think it's great. It's a great movement for the year. Because I mean, again, you think about some of the themes from the earlier part of the year is like, where does humans fit and how does it play through that? And of course, if I build off of this now, go towards the employee experience, I think it's an interesting component. You still see tremendous competition and high value skills within AI, right? Tech companies, other folks can't get enough, and the prices are just really crazy. I mean, you've got some of the model firms are like literally trying to figure out how to do their cap tables based on how they do talent acquisition and retention, which is pretty fascinating. But then you see also this fall, at least in North America, there was quite a bit of layoffs in general tech, a lot of layoffs in the, I'd say the support services and sales and marketing, some of the areas that, are probably have been ripe for process automation using AI tools. And, so you got this interesting, and the third thing, and that's maybe outside of the business environment, but you have higher education in at least North America that's probably under attack more than it's been in maybe ever. And so you have this interesting dynamic of like the reality of what you have to pay highly valuable tech resources, regardless of where they get those skills. That marketplace is booming. But then you've got this other component of a lot of still societal retooling and rethinking that needs to occur in terms of different roles and how that plays out. And so it's kind of like, which even like when I hear tech, AI bubble, I think mostly it feels like that is associated with the market pricing. But I also think that this employee side is still going to be a theme as we close a year into next year, and how companies kind of live in this environment, and how do you handle who you attract, who you keep, who you develop, how do you continue to give the skills necessary. I think those skills may not come from the traditional sources anymore. Think about education, college, certifications, those elements. I mean, I think some of that stuff that's just structurally too slow in today's environment. And so it's going to actually, for someone who's more entrepreneurially minded, I think it's going to be the world's going to be your oyster, so to speak, because you can probably the barriers of entry are pretty low as an employee who's got those different skills in a way that hasn't been seen. Been such a push, at least in North America, for the last 2 generations on college, and there was this traditional linear path, and I think we're seeing that really disrupted, which is really, to me, exciting. If you don't quite know where that's going to go, in my CEO hat, how do we keep and reward talent? I think that's something that will have to continue to get very much disrupted this year, and I think it'll be interesting how companies that are very efficient and how they approach these type things. I mean, it's going to look different, and the ones that can be flexible, the ones that can't. But
that's, I won't go into this. I promise.
I think our trusty friend over here is being like, hey, enough. Let's move on.
I was going to comment. If you're going to move on to 2026, we can get there. But I did have a comment on what you had just said, Kevin, because the thing that surprised me most this year, from my perspective, was, and we've seen this a lot with the clients that we work with, and in honor of the Christmas season or whatever holiday you're celebrating, typically there's gifts coming into the house, and what you have to do before all those gifts come in, which is what I'm doing right now, is take a look around of all the stuff that you have and figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go, and get everything in order and ready for those new gifts to come in. And we've seen a lot of companies with that same type of thinking, Kevin, whether it's with your technology or your data, it's getting your house in order before all these new presence, if you will, of AI gifts, bless us in 2026. And so that's what surprised me most, was that not only are we thinking about, like, from a data standpoint, from a technology standpoint, do we have everything in place that we need to be ready for this, but it's from a people and a process standpoint, how do we handle that? And so to hear you talking about that, is one of those things that's like, that's great to hear that's being thought of, because I think that's a very important piece of, and we talked about this with Marius and Emily, in the sense of, like, technology and people have to be closer than ever right now. It's keep your friends closer, your enemies closer. I guess maybe kind of one of those situations. But to me, that was probably the most surprising, was like towards the beginning of the year was all focused on tech and data and getting your house in order from that standpoint. But then in the back half, when things started moving really quickly, it's like, oh, wait, we've got to get our people up to speed. We've got to get our processes up to speed.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll just continue to build on that I think is both a negative of the year, and I'm hopeful based on even your statements, Jake, is that we've talked about this before, but I feel like that there's a negative stigmatism about management right now, right? I mean, just think about in middle layer management, how to work through that. We talked a little bit of that when we were with Marius and Emily as well. But like, I feel like that is a natural response to kind of bureaucracy that gets built into organizations, and you kind of flush it out. But I think it's also, to me, as someone who really which values human capital development and the structures associated with that. I mean, our value prop for our firm and ultimately how we deliver our clients is associated with, we value our people, and when they bring their unique gifts and abilities to what we do, and that's how we drive outcomes. And I think that, so this idea that, hey, management or middle management specifically is really not helpful, and there's tons of data that actually supports that claim. So I think you see it kind of, again, a restructuring is get rid of these layers, and you're seeing a lot more flatness. You're seeing, which flatness in itself I think is really good. Flatness where you've just essentially now taken senior leadership and say you got to manage a gazillion things and people across the sector. But if I take back what you talked about, this desire for human experience and human thinking, like, I think that these two will be in conflict with each other. And so potentially, those themes that we're seeing now from a product perspective, potentially will work its way back into a management perspective.
Well, funny enough, and this I think maybe anticipates where you want us to go, Ryan. But if we look ahead, you and I were talking this morning about what are the things that we're expecting to see at CES or at just kind of turn of the year. I think we've gone down the far extreme of, hey, AI can do everything. Just push the AI button, let it run, it does everything. I still think in the long term, we might get there, but I actually think in the shorter term, we'll probably see a bigger trend around the melding of human and AI working together, and that will be the premium experience.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting around how much you mash up into that, whether it be, this is again a more broader theme. Will it be more M&A next year? Will it be more elements of that? Whether it be broad scale companies coming together, whether it be departments and business units. I mean, I do think you'll see a lot of that you're going to start to see, this just what a structure can do and handle, and the fact that AI enhanced tools and processes allow you to have greater just ability to have insights to data, and working through that could be an interesting play for both a company and how do you help unlock that in your own, which then ultimately could, if played right, some of it's going to be just the cost and competitive advantage, but like it's an element, I think, if companies can reinvest some of those savings back into R&D, product development, those things, which I feel like the last couple of years, it was such the push off of 2020, and then I think investment in all this AI stuff. My guess is that companies are kind of feeling like, where do I go? Where do I invest? How do I pay for this? I got to pay the bills. And obviously there's still, depending on what business you're in, there's a lot of unrest in terms of tariffs, pricing, global. I mean, there's all this normal crap that you got to deal with. But it's I think it's a chance, though, potentially we could take some of these and actually get them back in. Because I would argue companies, this is not anything unique, but you got to prioritize thinking about the future. I think, and if you think about the arc of survive COVID, thrive and grow or not, now what does AI mean? And now into what's next, and again, AI, then you've got kind of just the I guess in North America, the impact of tariffs and different elements. What does that look like? And so what does the next couple of years look like? And I think you're going to see consolidations. I think you're going to see opportunities to do that. And I know I know Ryan, we skipped a block in our topics, but we'll get back to that. But I think it naturally builds off of these different things. So again, I feel like the change and adoption is going to be actually pretty exciting, because I think it is going to be driven by more human ingenuity that's empowered by tools. Whereas I think a year ago, we would have said it's really around power, tools, AI, those elements, but we don't quite know where we're going to deploy it.
That's right. No, I completely agree. Now watch us be way wrong next year, but I would read it the same way.
We can have tape on it, and we're going to replay it at the end of 2026.
Oh, did I bumped the button?
Yeah. That's what's good about like predictions. Like you never want to go back and
it's almost fun when they're wrong. It's more fun that way.
Yeah.
Right.
One that I got wrong. I'm sorry, this is a tangent, but when COVID hit, I wrote this little piece about like what are the things that are going to change during this COVID world that we won't go back to, and the one that I was dead convinced is I thought we were done with the long theatrical window for in theater movie releases. But because you had this trend where, studios were releasing direct to Netflix or HBO or, whatever platform, kind of like day of release because they had to. And I was like, all right, that's it. That's like, people are going to get accustomed to this. We're not going to go back. We went back. But then now slowly you have, the Netflixes of the world making plays for Warner Brothers, and I'm curious to see if that will come back.
That may need to be a topic on the pod. We've given ourselves the leeway to be able to talk about something like that. Mine was the getting your tires changed. You had to sit in the waiting room, but during COVID, you got to sit in your car as if we could have done that the whole time. But now we've since in the last year gone back to the waiting room. The only time I've ever felt like a NASCAR driver, you're sitting there at the wheel in front of you and
That's good.
Great.
Okay. It would have taken a while for me to get to that one. What is Ryan going to suggest?
There's no TV in that waiting room.
If those of you that are looking for a Christmas gift for Ryan, he wants to have an automatic jack to make his bolts
or just
to go.
Somebody who will come change his tires for him while he's sitting in his car.
While he's sitting in that. That is good. That's an easy gift. We'll make sure we tell your team that that's what they can do for you.
Yeah, appreciate that. So we did, Jake, you did mention that things that we'd expect to see or like to see at CES, and it's time for a major podcast announcement because Pure Signal will hit the ground running in 2026 as we will be at CES in Las Vegas, January 6th through 9th. And the hope is to take what we did at AWS reInvent and make it better, right? Let's bring in more guests. Let's bring in more collaboration and be able to bring that content to you. We're still working out some of the logistics with the marketing and people team, but we are posting content on a day-by-day basis at reInvent. I think the hope is to do that as well. So make sure whether it's on LinkedIn or any of your podcast channels, you're tuned into those for updates. Subscribe, right? So you can get those notifications. So let's put the bow on 2025. Any other final thoughts before I close the box?
Nope.
I've got the key right here.
Do it.
Just need to lock it.
Do it.
All right. We'll add the locking sound effect in there in post. But 2025 is closed. 2026 starting at CES. Jake, is it fair to call this like this is the big game for you? I mean,
it's like the candy shop for me.
Yeah,
candy
kid
store?
in a candy store.
Yeah.
So just kick us off we'll start with that, and then we'll get into a little bit more about what Kevin was leaning into about 2026 and just some not predictions, but our thoughts on the new year and what it holds.
Well, I mean, so CES, everybody knows this, but this is where a lot of companies will take the opportunity to announce their new things, new products, new technologies, even if it's a little bit wishful thinking when they announce it. And then so you'll see kind of the announcements happen in January, and then over the course of the year, the actual products will trickle out. So I think what we'll see is, and this is maybe just a fun little fodder because we can go back and fix this or see how wrong I am, but I think we'll see a lot of continued AI, of course. I mean, we saw that this year. Like you really, if you launch something right now and AI is not part of it, like what are you doing? It's like put your .com on it. But specifically, I think we'll see a lot of AI on device. So less of a, hey, I'm calling out to a model that's running in the cloud, and a lot more of no, the model's running locally, and that will drive privacy and all of that. It's interesting to see what Meta announced this fall with their new version of their smart glasses. I think we'll see more vision tech. In particular, I mean, I obviously we won't see anything announced by Apple, but I think we'll see more, smart glass type objects. I think we'll see a lot more wearable health tech. Think like biometric sensors, kind of in everything. And then obviously the usual suspects. We'll see robotics, probably some more humanoids. We'll see the next generation of display tech and all of those type things. But I think what's most interesting for us being there is back to the, your pure signal and noise. I hope what we can talk about is like, well, a lot of this is very consumer oriented. What does this actually mean for our clients? What are the takeaways from wow, if this thing is happening, this could impact this segment of business or that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a whole lot to add. Obviously it comes from the consumer perspective, but I would definitely agree with what I expect to see too. Just the continuation of just really the robotics, the wearable, the health. I think one of the themes that I know you locked 2025, which is one, not to go back.
Kevin found the key.
Well, I didn't find the key, but I would say that is a trend. I mean, just the wearable health, just even the demographic shifts between consumer choices and what, everything from, the humor, the conception, the health and elements of that are continuing to go down a path, whether it be, different choices of what you eat, drink, smoke, whatever else. I mean, all those different elements, right? It's just different. And some of that's more about health, some of it's about choice. So I think you'll continue to see that. I think it's going to be interesting to see the privacy components of that, of just even like the annoyance, the annoyance factor that when my particular wearable device doesn't work for the third time, and it takes me a week where I can't figure out if I slept or not. But
it's a common theme on the podcast
now
this year.
We can't do that without the tech.
Yeah, can't tell me I got a crappy night's sleep, and I don't know how much sleep that I have. So it's an interesting something that you didn't think that you wanted, like your cup of coffee. That becomes part of your experience, and then how does that tie back into what really matters, which is really around your overall, lifestyle health. And I think you'll still see those themes. I mean, I think that was maybe a derivative of going back to November of 22 and Altman's bonbons comment. I think this idea that that we could be more healthy and working through that, maybe different application of not working less, but I think definitely people are seen to be more mindful of that, and I think that's a good thing overall. And even how companies respond to that in terms of their workforce, consumer base. But yeah, one thing I love about CES, and this again my first time really going, I've experienced it indirectly. I think it's hopeful. Right, it's a hopeful time of year. It's a start of the year, and the cynic in me wants to say, well, it's because Vegas has nothing to do between Christmas and New Year's, and so they can reshuffle all the convention space. But there's probably but the same token, what a great way to launch the year and to have that, and a good chance for us. And we've got some big announcements that we'll be indirectly a part of with the parent company, and and I'm just excited to be able to just continue to build on this momentum for the year, and how that plays in the themes that you said, Jake, that we see in the consumer perspective, and obviously a lot of clients of ours that support that. But then how does that trickle into the enterprise experience and how that plays through that? We haven't really talked a ton about least I haven't talked or thought a ton about, well, how will robotics impact, the day job and things like that in terms of a more traditional non-manufacturing type environment or logistics environment. Like that might be interesting to think about how some of the things would play out that's, different than the mailbot or the drink cart that comes around, but like actually things that actually really provide value in some ways, and really getting to a bit more, whether actual robotics, or just even virtual assistants that have a different form, function, impact than ways that we interact. And I think we'll continue to see that. I mean, I think we've joked about this before, both personally and on here, the long march towards the vision that was broadcasted in Minority Report, where you've got the displays and the scenes, and whether it be glass, whether it be motion, whether it be different elements. I think we continue to march towards the element of access to data for two of us who find ourselves loving the experience on a whiteboard of how you create collaboration. You think in the inspiration that comes from the connection of dots that happen in those mediums. How does that still continue to play out with a digital ecosystem, but then also enhanced by the tooling? It really just makes it even more fun in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, riffing on your comment around this it's a hopeful event. I think half of the fun is we can sit here and pontificate about all of these things, but when you're actually walking the floor and you're touching it and looking at it, at least, it's different. I mean, it sparks the thoughts that you might not have had otherwise, and frankly, to me, it's always really interesting just to do the exercise of looking at, wow, like there's so much of this particular thing, or there's so much of this particular thing. You have, it's a massive, massive event, but finding the themes is usually a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then when you take that from there, or those moments now into our client conversations, I think there's natural bridging towards just what are they hopeful for? What are they thinking about? What are they planning? Again, even if it has nothing relevant that would actually something we'd see at CS, it's a natural bridge to those conversations. And I think you always have the start of the year, and obviously planning occurs on an ongoing basis. So it's not like you're rethinking about that, but it's a great chance after hopefully people get some downtime and a chance to recharge, and you can come back and you can really be energized, really thinking about what you can do. And going back to, I guess, the theme where I think at the start of 25 versus start of 26, if start of 25 was like a bit more like a slog in the standpoint, we're getting up, we have all this uncertainty. We don't know what this is going to look like. How do we work through that? To me, at least for our business, and I think maybe a bit for what I'm sensing from our clients, is that 2026 there's still a need to change, expand, accelerate. All those dynamics are still there, but it's more in the realm of possible versus theoretical. And so it's easier for me to think about how do I redesign a process, or how do I restructure a business, or how do I, think about things together. You still got to work through it, and the creativity associated with that, the hard work that actually takes to do it. But I think for many people in the non-pure tech side of the house, that's more tangible. And you think about, just even being a year post-election when you don't, and again, so much of our cycles across the world and are dictated by that element of uncertainty, but just being the fact that we're entering in the second year, and again, there's all kinds of things that we'd like to see change as always, and whoever is in charge, but I think you kind of know what to expect a little bit more too, which is
until you get to midterms.
Yeah, and then things slow down, but I just think that it's not. Even on the fact that you get to midterms, I think there has to be more pro-growth things that will have to occur in the first half of the year. Otherwise, it's going to be a washout. And so I think that to me, as a business guy, actually, I think they're going to be pro-business, pro-growth, because the economy is going to drive. I think the economy will drive what will happen. So that's actually another, really a tailwind for, I think, companies. And then we'll get into the grind of the end of the year. But
yeah.
Well, that was a great way to start 2026. CES is going to be exciting. I think, Jake, the way you put it, our goal is to take all these things that are very consumer based and tell you what that means for your business, your company, your life, is a good challenge for us to kind of take as our driving force when we're on the scene there in Las Vegas, January 6th through 9th. Again, make sure you're subscribed so you get all the notifications, all that good stuff. The hope for us at Pure Signal is that we continue to bring in a lot of collaborators and guests that we feel and you feel would be impactful for us. If you see us around, whether you're at Credera or at CES, reach out to us and let us know what you'd like to hear so that we can make sure that we're accounting for that. We want to make sure that we continue driving good conversations. That's the ultimate goal here. But final thoughts, anything else for 2026 other than that we can...
Well, I mean, I just build on that a little bit too, maybe add a little bit more context. I think that love to continue to have us bring in different voices, like you said. It's really fun to have client stories and just different perspectives as we're thinking about that. So that'd be really fun. And I think continue to have us be going down a bit more the themes that are probably a little bit more relevant to us around the construct of Pure Signal, but typically around product and innovation and human capital and how those again are all influenced by technology. But my final thoughts for both not only pod. I think just excited to continue to be able to do this with you guys next year. We'll continue to find ways that it grows and tweaks and all that stuff like that. That's part of our own little adventure. I had a chance to connect recently with Vincent, and he was still a fan of the podcast, and just really kind of, it's interesting to see like some of the his interest in this. And I'm like, well, you didn't have to leave, buddy. I just think it's fun to continue to be able to do this together with you. So really thankful for that. And just my last 2026 is that I'm excited, and I'm excited for what we get to do together as the three of us, what we do as a firm. I think, just great conversations that are happening with our clients, and we're shifting from projects to more outcome solutions, which I think is just much more aligned. It's just a really fun time for me and my day job to think about how do we continue to position our firm for growth and to rethink through things. And there's been in consulting or consulting in tech for the majority of my career, and I feel like every handful of years we're told how it will end. And I just think, to me, it just, what continues to come back is this intersection of the human ingenuity into what we do and how we accelerate. And I just feel like we're at that moment again that if you don't change, you're going to have challenges. But if you continue to change and evolve and take advantage of everything that's behind us and in front of us, that it's going to be a really great year.
I can't do better than that. Let's go with that.
I like your effort to try there, Jake. For me, final thoughts is just thank you both for allowing me to do this and to be a part of this. It's been such a fun last couple of months. Can't believe we have a whole nother year of this ahead of us, and can't wait to see where this thing goes and where it takes us. It's already taken us to Vegas twice, which is a great way to start, right? Like, if you're going to start somewhere, it's not a bad place. But just appreciate you both, and appreciate everybody that tunes into this every time we put out an episode and stops us in the hallway and talks about how great it is, or comments on LinkedIn or whatever it may be. So just a thanks to you all. But so for myself, Ryan, for Jake, for Kevin, thank you all so much for a great 2025. We will see you at CES in 2026 to kick things off. But this is us reminding you to be bold,
be curious.
Thank you.